It's often a rainy day in Ketchikan, but that doesn't mean your health should be sacrificed. This is Wet Weather Wellness.
Abbie Stevenson here with another episode of Wet Weather Wellness. It's raining outside today in Ketchikan, surprise, surprise, but our mission for wellness still continues. In today's episode, we're going to learn about the concepts of intuitive eating and meal prep and what that can mean for your overall wellness. Earlier this morning, I sat down with friend and meal prep expert Talia Koren from Workweek Lunch to learn a little bit more. Take a look. Hi, Talia. Thank you so much for joining me here today.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, so I am really fascinated by your company. I've been following you for many years on Instagram and social media and YouTube. And so why don't you go ahead and tell us a little bit about what inspired you to focus on meal prep in your life?
Yes, well, I was just a recent graduate, right out of college, living in New York City at the time. And I realized quickly how expensive it was to feed myself. So I was like, I need another option. And meal prep kind of was like my light bulb moment of, oh, I can just batch cook and save money that way.
Oh, for sure. I remember when I was living in New York City, it was like I wasn't home a lot. So I was working so many hours. So, your Instagram account really saved me because I was able to pack healthy lunches ahead of time and bring my meals with me to work instead of spending, the easy $30 that you could a day on meals.
It just goes.
It does. It really does. And so why don't you tell us a little bit about what meal prep is and what is involved in that?
Absolutely. So meal prep in its just basic form is making meals ahead of time so that you don't have to spend time cooking, chopping, and washing dishes every single day. So you're still eating home cooked food every day, but not doing the work every day. And that's what really attracted me to it. But there are a lot of ways to meal prep. So if you are looking at my Instagram, Abbie, and looking at like, oh my God, how does she do all that? You don't have to do it my way. All it is just having meals ready to go before you eat them.
Okay, got it. So I brought my meal prepped lunch today. I have my salad. And so something that's really important to me here on Wet Weather Wellness is this concept that wellness doesn't always include taking something away from your life. It doesn't mean you have to go on a diet. It means listening to your body and nourishing it the way that it's asking for. And so, do you have any recommendations for ways that you have embraced that wellness aspect into your meal prepping schedule?
Absolutely. Meal prep only works if you're making meals you'll look forward to. So yeah, for me, I never looked forward to the sad, soggy salads and the boring chicken, broccoli, rice type of meals. Instead, I drew inspiration from my favorite takeout places and other cuisines I wanted to try, with less focus on the health factor and more focus on the taste factor.
That's awesome. And when you are meal prepping, do you have any particular number of days that you recommend that one prep for? Does it start to get a little soggy after a few days? What do you recommend?
Yeah, you don't want to lock yourself into a full week of prepared meals. That is a big no-no, big mistake to avoid. You want to prep for 3 to 4 days in advance max. Anything else you can freeze, to get you through the whole week, but keep it in your fridge for 3 to 4 days and you'll be good.
Okay, that's good to know. Do you have any tips for people who might be meal planning on a budget?
Absolutely. My biggest number one tip is shop your pantry and freezer. Use what you already have and you'll save so much money at the grocery store. So go raid your pantry and freezer, write it down, look up recipes that align with those ingredients, and then make your grocery list.
That's so smart. And what kind of basics do you recommend somebody have in their kitchen before taking on meal prepping, just to have them there so you can use them for multiple meals?
Absolutely. I think grains are amazing to have. You can buy them in bulk. They last long on the shelf. Same with canned goods. I'm a huge fan of chickpeas, black beans, pinto beans. Anything in the can can work really great for meal prep and you don't have to worry about it going bad.
Do you think that organic matters when you are embracing wellness?
It really depends on your priorities. You know, for me personally, my bigger priority is saving money and just making sure I have vegetables on my plate, whether they're organic or not. You know, if you really care about where your produce is coming from and that's a huge factor for you, go for it. But if your priorities are outside of that, don't worry about it too much.
Okay, well, that's good to know. And then do you have any specific type of containers you like to use? Like I have always gone for the glass just because I worry about toxins in the microwave and reheating and everything. But do you have any preference that you like?
Yes, I use glass. I actually have two of my favorite glass containers here. We've
Nice.
got this Pyrex container and then this random one I got on Amazon. I choose glass for a different reason. I find they are more appealing to eat out of than plastic.
Okay.
Yeah, but no matter what container you get, just make sure that it locks so that it doesn't leak on you. So it's super important.
Yes, good point. But you know what? I love that you chose containers based on what would be appealing to eat out of. I feel like it's those little tiny micro differences that make a difference in our life and whether or not we're gonna want to embrace eating our home cooked meals. Like if it doesn't look good after a couple of days, I feel like I'm probably not gonna dive right into it, you know?
Yes. And another tip is if you're really against eating out of containers, plate your meal prep. You can put it in a bowl on a plate and it feels like a fresh meal.
Okay, cool. Awesome. So I have noticed that you have begun to embrace intuitive eating as part of the way that you meal prep or that you select your foods. Can you tell us a little bit about what is intuitive eating and what goes into that?
Absolutely. Intuitive eating is like an approach to food and health that is disconnected from weight loss. So you're treating your body with respect, but the results have nothing to do with the shape of your body or what the number on the scale. So it's still, you're not really eating everything you want necessarily in the moment. That's not practical or realistic. But you're not going to make every food decision based on whether it's going to work for weight loss or not. So that's kind of my definition of intuitive eating.
Okay, got it. And one thing that I really love about your program is that I am lactose intolerant and I don't like to eat a lot of meat. And I've noticed that a lot of your recipes have a vegan option to them, which is really wonderful for those times that, you know, I want to just not do the meat and dairy thing altogether. So tell us a little bit. You have a subscription, right? You have a subscription program on your website. So tell us what your website is, your subscription, and the different recipes.
Absolutely. So my company is called Workweek Lunch. The subscription is the Workweek Lunch meal prep program, kind of a mouthful. And we offer recipes for vegans, vegetarians, omnivores, gluten-free and dairy-free eaters. So every recipe can be made, every recipe can be made for all those things. And we basically help people through the meal planning process and help you make a grocery list and find recipes that actually work for meal prep.
I have tried some of your recipes and I can vouch that they do actually work. So that's exciting. Does someone need to have any, it might be daunting for them to start out in the kitchen. You started just after college, right? So it's like, do you have to have professional chef skills or be able to really navigate your kitchen like a pro when you're first starting out?
When I started cooking, I had my best friend supervise me to make pasta. So no, you do not need to have chef level skills. I would say you can make meals in a very simple way in the beginning and kind of, zhuzh things up as you get better in the kitchen, but you don't need to be a pro.
Okay. All right. That's good to know. And so are there any particular recipes that stand out to you that you have done on your website?
Absolutely. Our popular recipe right now is our Italian gnocchi soup, which can be made, non-dairy, but it does have cream in it, and that was just exploded. We have a Trader Joe's copycat, like orange chicken copycat, that is doing very well. So anything that you see in the freezer aisle in the grocery store, or that would be like a takeout option, would make an amazing meal prep. My personal favorite is anything curry and coconut milk and rice.
Yes, I love your curry recipes. I noticed that you just started a free recipe Friday where you share free recipes with people. And what was the one that you did last week?
Mac and cheese.
It was mac and cheese. Yes, that was so good. That's
Yeah.
great.
Oh,
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us here, Talia. I can't wait to get out into the community and try some of your recipes. Do you have any last tips for anyone who is starting out in the meal prep process?
Yes, take it 1 week at a time. You don't have to commit to meal prep for life. Try it for 1 week, see how it goes, and then go from there.
Okay, awesome. And so if I wanted to start bringing on intuitive eating into my life, what is a way that I can start embracing that?
Yes, the number one way to start is rejecting diet culture, which is just accepting that we can eat in a way that does not necessarily help weight loss and still be healthy.
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much. You're so inspiring. And everyone, visit workweeklunch.com, Workweek Lunch on Instagram, and see all of the awesome recipes and videos that Talia is doing. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you. This is fun.
We have wet weather yet again here in Ketchikan, and that's perfect for wet weather wellness. Talia gave me a few of her recipes to try for meal prep. So I'm gonna go home, I'm gonna make a few of these recipes, but first I'm gonna stop and get some fresh ingredients. One of my favorite places in town to get fresh produce is Wolf Point Produce. So let's head inside and see what they have. I'm here with owner of Wolf Point Produce, Nicole Toubé, born and raised in Ketchikan. Nicole, thank you so much for having us. We are in a sea of fruit right now.
Don't you love it?
Completely surrounded.
This is amazing.
It's wonderful. Tell me a little bit about how you started Wolf Point Produce.
Great, I would love to. Growing up in Ketchikan, I remember going to the fruit truck, and it was literally the highlight of the week growing up. And I wanted to bring back that amazing feeling that I had as a little girl, trying some fruit for the very first time, fresh fruit for the very first time. I wanted to bring it back to Ketchikan. You know, during COVID, we need things to make us smile. We need things to be excited about. And that's why Wolf Point Produce opened.
Wonderful. So why are we standing here at Tongass Indoor Storage? How does this work with regards to all these fruit boxes and people order it, and how do they come pick it up?
Exactly, great question. You go to our Facebook page, Wolf Point Produce, and then you go to the shop, and then you simply select pickup or delivery. And then if it's pickup, you come to Tongass Indoor Storage 1 day a week. We're only open Tuesday from 12 to 6, and you pick up this amazing box. Every week is different, but every week is always fresh and always amazing. We can deliver island-wide, $5 in town, $10 out of town. I got you down.
All right, great. What do we got today?
Today we have fresh organic broccoli.
Ooh,
We have fresh organic bananas.
love it.
We have our grapes from Chile.
Are there sweet potatoes? Because I'm looking forward to cooking with sweet potatoes.
Yes, sweet
All right,
potatoes.
awesome, great.
And then we have our organic cabbage,
Awesome,
organic avocados,
great, best
oranges.
in town. Yep.
Yeah, avocados best in town. Organic yellow onion.
All
and
right.
look at these apples, small enough maybe for
Yeah, lunch.
neighbor kids.
Yeah, those are like lunch apples. I love it.
There you go.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Can't wait to start cooking.
Enjoy, Abby.
Thank you.
Hi.
Fruit has been acquired. Hi, puppy. Now that we have our fresh produce from Wolf Point, I want to take it and I want to put it into use. And I also want to talk to you a little bit about this concept of intuitive eating. It's something that Talia mentioned a little bit in her interview, and she writes about it on her website as well. Intuitive eating is this belief that you are the expert of your body and its hunger signals. It is in fact the opposite of a diet. You literally just listen to what your body needs and you nourish it accordingly. Really, I think it's about making peace with food, and we are all about finding ways to bring in peace and wellness to ourselves in a rainy day, right? So this is perfect to bring in this concept of intuitive eating. It's something that I have actually been practicing recently, and I have found a lot of changes in the way that I relate to my body. Really, if you think about it, the pandemic on its rise last year, people were staying at home, and they naturally ended up eating more and moving less. And then what happens? You end up feeling bad about it. And as a result, people try and control their body and their weight. Intuitive eating debunks this myth that we can control our body composition if only we had enough willpower. Sound familiar? Talia says in reality, there are a lot more things that influence our weight than just being able to control ourselves. So when it doesn't work, food actually becomes a source of anxiety. What we're going to do today is we're going to take the principles of intuitive eating and apply them with a few recipes that she gave to me from the Workweek Lunch website. Because in fact, meal prepping ahead of time, at least for me personally, reduces a lot of that anxiety that I can feel about food. I know that it brings me a lot of peace on a really busy day when I know that there is something nutritious and delicious waiting for me in the fridge. And I don't know about you, but I have struggled with my weight for my entire life. For so long, I held myself back from living my life to the fullest because I was worried about my weight and what others thought of me, which is how I ended up working in banking for 10 years and didn't truly follow my dreams of working on television. So intuitive eating is really about making peace with both food and yourself and listening to what your body needs. And meal prepping plays in perfectly with that. Today we're gonna make first a creamy sweet potato curry over rice and then a 5-ingredient spinach and bean enchilada. We're gonna make enough food for 2 days for lunches and for dinners. I personally like to only make meal preps a few days in advance just because they tend to get soggy after 4 or 5 days. So I wouldn't go out more than 3 days, which is also what Talia recommended in our interview. One part of intuitive eating that I have embraced is that my body was telling me that both dairy and meat do not agree with my system. So that's why I have selected these 2 recipes that don't include those things. However, you can easily just swap in your favorite protein into both recipes. It's very easy. So to get started today, this was supposed to be a butternut squash recipe, but you know what? I got these great sweet potatoes in the produce box today, so I'm gonna use these. So I'm gonna take out the sweet potatoes, and I'm also gonna need an onion for this recipe, so I'm gonna take those things and then move that out of the way. Here we go. So some of the ingredients that we have for this curry, I'm using sweet potato, onion, I have 3 tablespoons of olive oil. We're gonna use 1 tablespoon of minced ginger. We're also gonna use 1 clove of garlic, cilantro, coconut milk, diced potatoes, lime, and just salt, pepper, and curry, and some spinach. So let's get started. The first thing I'm gonna do is go ahead and prep by chopping. I have the recipe here. I printed it out from online. I recommend you do the same, unless you can just use your phone. So let's start by cutting up these sweet potatoes. A lot of people might want to peel their sweet potato, and that's totally fine. I tend to just keep the skin on because I think it can add a little extra fiber into my diet, and that's not a bad thing. One of these might even be a yam. I think the sweet potato is in the shape of a potato and a yam is in the shape of a root. And it can either be orange or white. But we're gonna use both, and it's gonna be delicious. Garlic. Ginger. Look at this onion though. They really do have great onions. Onions and avocados are my jam there. Woo! Feeling the onions, feeling the onions. Okay, onions can do a rough chop. They don't need, you know. All right, onion, great. So, everything is chopped up for the most part that we need. Next step, I'm gonna combine some olive oil with the salt and pepper to taste. Not all of the olive oil, just 2 tablespoons of it. There we go. I like Himalayan salt. Choose the salt that you really like. I got turned off from iodized salt. I know that we need a certain amount of iodine in our diets to feel good, so that's important. But for me, I like Himalayan salt. And literally, I'm just gonna take my hand and I'm gonna mix up the sweet potato with the olive oil because we're gonna put these on a pan and we're gonna put them into the oven to roast while we go ahead and we start our rice and we make the rest of the recipe. Great, so that looks nicely mixed. And we're gonna pour it onto a baking sheet and roast for about 30 minutes. Okay, now let's get the rice started because that's gonna take also about 30 minutes to cook. This whole recipe shouldn't take more than 30 minutes total. I like to use jasmine rice when I cook, especially it just pairs really well with a good curry. Usually I'll use about twice the amount of water than I do rice. Bring it to a boil. Excuse me, dog. And then we will add the rice. After about 10 minutes, you're gonna wanna take these out and stir them up just to make sure they roast evenly on all sides. Great. And put it back in the oven for another 10 minutes. So while your sweet potatoes are in the oven, the next step is to go ahead and make the curry. I'm gonna start out with pouring the rest of the olive oil that we had reserved before into the pan. Let that heat up a little bit. And then add the remaining garlic, ginger, and onion into here. So we're gonna start out with just the onion and the garlic. Just pour it straight from the cutting board into the pan. Great. And go ahead and let this heat up until the onions are sweating a little bit and looking translucent. And the ginger, mix that in there. I'm also gonna add a pinch of salt here. And we're just gonna stir it frequently until the onions have softened and darkened in color. And I can really smell the aromas of the ginger and the onion mixing together. While we let that cook, I'm gonna measure out the amount that we need of curry. You can either use 1 tablespoon of curry paste or 2 to 3 teaspoons of curry powder. I have curry powder. We're gonna put that on there. I'm gonna do about 2.5 teaspoons. See if I like it, and if I wanna add more curry, I'll just add that extra half of teaspoon of curry in there. Great. Now let's mix that in there as well. You can really smell, it's got a great curry flavor here in the kitchen. So we're gonna add the tomatoes in there next. That'll give a nice acid to our base. And I can smell that the sweet potatoes are just about done. I had had them on a timer for 15 minutes, and that has now expired, but I can smell that they are done. So I'm gonna go ahead and take those out of the oven, and I'm gonna add about half of the sweet potatoes to the curry mixture that I'm making. Let's check them to make, oh, yep, those are nice and hot and soft. So let's add that in there. And let's toss that all together so it is well coated. The next step is we're gonna add our coconut milk. That is a great non-dairy way to add a creaminess to any food that you're cooking. I'm a big fan. And you can pretty much buy coconut milk in any of the, I found this one with the Asian food in the grocery store, but you can pretty much find it very easily. All right, see all those flavors coming together, the colors coming together. You know, they say that you can tell the nutrition content of your food by how vibrant the colors are, and those have some vibrant colors. Sometimes coconut milk has a nice hard layer on top, but then underneath you'll find all the water underneath. So you want to add all of that in there so you can get a creamy base with a lot of flavor. See how that's all combining in there. Just let it melt in the pan together. Any big chunks of the coconut milk, I'll just find them with my spoon and chop them up so that it can all blend in there. The next step is that you're going to want to bring this mixture down to a low boil and let it reduce just a little bit. Right now we have a lot of liquid here in the pan, so I think that by adding, letting it just kind of boil off for a little bit, that'll combine the flavors and reduce the amount of liquid. Okay, now that we see this is coming up to a nice, beautiful boil and the sauce has thickened up a bit, I'm gonna add in the spinach. It says to use about 10 ounces of spinach. This is a 15-ounce container, so I'm gonna use about 2/3 of it. And the spinach will boil down. It'll wilt down pretty quickly. And I'm gonna turn the heat off actually because spinach cooks really fast. That looks like a ton of spinach. It won't be in the actual recipe. And I'm gonna slowly start mixing this in there. It's not a pretty process, but it's a nutritious process, so there's that. And you'll see, look at that, the spinach is already starting to wilt. And to move down, we have some flyaway, runaway spinach here. I'm a huge spinach fan. If you don't like spinach, you don't have to add spinach. If you like to use shrimp or chicken or beef, you could use that. That is no problemo. Really, you just make the taste, what tastes good to you. That's what intuitive eating is all about. And just keep stirring it until everything is mixed in properly. Okay. Looks like the spinach is mixed in there very well, and we are now ready for plating. Okay, so that was pretty simple. It took a matter of 15-20 minutes. We have our rice in here, along with the curry, squeeze of lime, and some cilantro for garnish. It doesn't matter if you use plastic or glass containers. I have both. All I know is I have 3 delicious dinners made and ready for me when I need them. All right, we're back at the chopping block again. This time I'm gonna make 5 ingredient spinach and black bean enchiladas. So the ingredients I have here are some fresh tortillas, cilantro, avocado, a lime for garnishing. I have non-dairy cheese, olive oil, spinach, enchilada sauce, which you could find easily in the aisle at the grocery store, and some black beans and chili powder. So let's get started. The first thing I'm gonna do is go ahead and chop up about 6 cups of spinach. You always wanna make sure you rinse your spinach first before you go ahead. This has already been rinsed. And I'm gonna give it a rough chop. It doesn't need to be into tiny little pieces, just enough so you can roll it up into an enchilada, right? Great, that is chopped up. All right, I'm gonna take a skillet, I'm gonna add in the olive oil, and I'm gonna heat it up, and then I'm gonna put the rest of the ingredients in there. So let's get started. So let's add in our olive oil here. Our pan has been heating up over the stove. And then we're gonna add in our black beans. I have about a 30-ounce can of black beans that have been both rinsed and drained prior to using them. I'm gonna add some salt and pepper to taste. And now I'm adding about a teaspoon of cumin and a teaspoon of chili powder. If you don't like it on the spicier side, I do recommend just making sure you don't add too much chili powder. I like things a little spicy, so why not live a little? Add it in there. Okay, so we're gonna stir and cook this up for about 5 minutes. And then we'll go ahead and we'll add our spinach. All right, so this has been cooking for about 5 minutes. I can tell because the beans have gotten a little bit soft. So now's the time that we're gonna add our spinach into the pan. You wanna make sure you have a nice and big pan because the spinach can take up a lot of space. Stir it up. There we go. Okay, this has been nicely mixed. And then you have to cover the pan and let the spinach just wilt and steam up under there, under the cover, and you're gonna let it sit for about 5 minutes just to cook the spinach. While I'm waiting, I'm gonna get my other ingredients ready. Yeah, about 3/4 of a cup of cheese to shred. Okay, our beans and spinach have been mixed together, and to that I'm gonna add about 3/4 of a cup of cheese. And then I'm gonna add a tablespoon of the enchilada sauce. That looks about right. And mix it all together. There we go. These are gonna go into the oven, so it's okay if the cheese is not fully melted by the time that you mix it up. The next step is we are ready to combine our enchiladas. So let's go ahead and spray down a casserole dish with a little bit of cooking spray, just so nothing sticks. Get the sides too. And take your enchilada, lay that down, and fill just a nice small lining of each tortilla. There we go. I'm gonna add a little avocado in there because I'm a rebel and I'm making a 6-ingredient enchilada. And that's how I'm living my life, and I'm okay with that. Okay, so just roll that up. You're gonna wanna place the enchilada seam side down in the pan. That is very important so that when they are cooking, they do not open up. on to the next enchilada. We'll just nicely roll it up. There we go. Place that next to it and repeat until you've done about 6 tortillas. All right, now that we have all of the enchiladas rolled up, you can take the rest of your can of enchilada sauce and just pour it over. And then take the rest of your cheese and spread that on top as well. And these babies are ready to go into the oven for about 15 to 20 minutes, uncovered at 400 degrees. And now it's just a matter of cleanup, and let's get our containers out and we'll finish our meal prep. Let's hope that these transfer okay. Come on, baby, come on. There we go. All right, you're fine. Number 2, like butter. Who doesn't love avocado? There you have it, lunch and dinner for 3 days this week. It brings me a lot of peace to know that I will have these delicious and fresh and local ingredient meals in my fridge whenever I need them. So if you're looking to add a little wellness into your life on a rainy day, go ahead and check out some intuitive eating tips and check out meal prep. I recommend going to workweeklunch.com for more information.
Yeah, give it a stir for me.
You want to do like one of those? Everything's fine.
For the blooper reel.
Everything's fine, guys. Everything's fine. Everything's going great, Jason. I'm gonna go ahead and just chop a few up. Give me a second. I'm a pro. I'm definitely a cooking pro, as you can tell. It's like, look at my flip, Jason.
Oh, brilliant.
Oh, that was amazing.